Hi, I'm Adam Hamalian,
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and this is The Real Story with Adam and Sherry. It's our weekly podcast. We talk about all things real estate. Some of it is for our clients, some of it is for our co-agents, and some of it's just to entertain ourselves. So, hope you
Yes.
enjoy getting to know us a little bit. We are often asked how we became partners. And in fact, didn't an agent ask you a funny question yesterday?
Yes. We showed houses yesterday, as you remember, and one of the agents called last night to talk about an offer we submitted and said, "How are you and Adam related?"
Uh,
And I was like, "Related?"
I take that as a compliment. I'm happy to be associated with all things Sherry. So if somehow think we're cousins or siblings or whatever else, so
You can be the little brother I never had. Oh, wait, I have a little brother.
yeah,
I have two of them.
yeah. Wait, we're not going to tell you about this podcast.
Exactly. Yes. I
Uh,
assured her we were not related, although either one of us would have a problem with that if we were.
Yeah, exactly. So, for those of you who don't know our history, we have been business partners for almost 6 years. And prior to that, we were doing accountability with each other, which is what led us to partnering. It's kind of today's topic is going to be really kind of our origin story. If those of you are in the Marvel comics and we find out about the origins of all the superheroes, sometimes we like to think about ourselves as superheroes. Realtors sometimes wear capes. So we're going to tell a little bit about our partnership and then a little bit about us as individuals because that's part of that story. So Cher, what was your first memory of meeting me?
I just want to say one thing real quick. This is the interesting thing about how you and I partner and get along so great and enjoy working together. You reference Marvel Comics, and I have no idea what you're talking about, but still, we're okay with that. I trust you. Anyway,
It works.
yes, it works. Yes, it does. So my origin story, is that what you asked me?
Our origin story. Like,
Our origin
how did you
story.
first, do you remember your first meeting me?
I do. Julie asked me to be the second person who interviewed you. Not necessarily an interview, but you wanted to talk about technology. And at the time, surprisingly, I was the most technical person in the company. It was a much smaller company then. And you had all kinds of questions about CRMs and things like that. And I remember saying, "Oh, don't worry, you're not going to need it." Um, but my main memory of you from that day was how serious you were. You were very serious. I don't know
Very
if you smiled the whole time I met you.
well.
Yes.
The thing that's really ironic about that is we have a partnership agreement, and one of the things that's very specific to our partnership agreement, like you think about marriage vows being very typical, then people write their own vows. This is the
Uh-huh.
one of the very few things that we wrote into our partnership. And Sherry, what is that one thing that's in our partnership agreement?
The one thing is that I have to laugh at your jokes.
Yes, yeah. So apparently, I'm not as serious as I portrayed in that very first. I'm wondering whether I was intimidated or like I just wanted Julie to hire me because I wanted to get out of where the other place where I had been. And
Well,
so
because I'm so intimidating, right?
yeah, intimidating. That's it. Well, it's your charming laugh that I've now become intoxicated by, and so I have to
Uh-huh.
tell jokes, uh,
Uh-huh.
and that you have to laugh at it, whether it's funny or not. And the risk manager here at Dudum, who reviews all these contracts, his comment was, "I'm not sure that's enforceable." So, I'm glad
Talk
that
about somebody who's serious.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure that I'm thankful that we don't have to I don't have to figure out how to enforce that clause because you are very gracious and laugh at all of my dad jokes. And for the record, that's the level of humor that I do. Dad jokes, they're not particularly funny. Um, but Sherry's
Well, we both
very
have the same
nice.
goofy sense of humor, so that helps.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Julie, our broker, said she loves to hear me laughing from, down the hallway, wherever she is in the office. Although the person who shared an office or was in an office next to us at one point overheard Julie say that someday and kind of under her breath said, "Yeah, until you have to listen to it all day long." Uh,
Oops.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Do get work done, though. I mean, this is a hard business and, you got to have fun.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you got to let your hair down, even though we don't have as much as we used to. So
Exactly. Oops, I'm laughing at your joke.
there you go. See how easy it is.
So the second
So,
time I met you,
oh, the second time though. There's a second
second
time.
time I met you was when our operations manager was walking you through the office because apparently you had decided to join the company and they couldn't find an office for you. We had no offices left, and I was in an office that had an extra desk, empty desk. And I don't know what made me get up and, figure out that you were in the building or if it was just coincidental, but I saw them looking around and I said, put him in here. Just put him in here. And she did.
And yeah, that was kind of the fateful entry to getting to know you better. You
Uh,
get to know me, and yeah, that was the fateful moment, I think, getting to share the office.
yeah. Yeah.
For
It's a
those
good
of you
office.
who don't know, the way real estate agencies work, all agents are independent brokers, and things like shared office spaces, two independent people working near each other and having to share an office space, even though they don't have any business ties to each other. So that's fairly common. But in our case, which is not unusual, that you share an office space with somebody and you become friendly and you overhear how people are doing business. And we had some mutual respect for how we were operating business. One of the things that puts us on an even playing field is we both have our broker's license, not just a real estate license.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit more depth to our individual knowledge and experience, as reflected in that. And so as we were doing business, we realized, hey, this is somebody that I'd be willing to ask advice from and get some feedback, talk through different problems. So we began doing that. And
Mhm.
then the next thing was we started being accountability partners and like, all right, these are the things that I'm going to do to grow my business, improve myself as an agent, make myself better at what we do. And after doing that for about a year, we decided to partner officially. And uh,
Mhm.
what is really unusual about that is we both committed to it 100%, meaning that we were going to share all future business 50-50, regardless of where the client potentially came from. So
Mhm.
it could have been a close friend of Sherry's or a close friend of mine. We were going to work on it together. And I think it was that year of doing accountability that I don't think we knew in the begin. I know we didn't know in the beginning that we were building those building blocks of trust, to trust our close friends and previous clients with each other. But that's really what came out of that was the level of integrity I think that we knew.
Mhm.
I think, I don't know, how far in that year did you think that we thought we might partner together? Like, at what point did you think that that was something that might be profitable or interesting?
After you moved into my office, you mean?
Yeah, when we were being accountability partners, like at what point did you think I might want to partner with Adam?
I don't remember specifically. Um, I was coming out of a partnership and I liked the concept of being partners. It's a hard business. It's nice to do it with someone. And ideally, if you have a partner, you can get what's called a vacation. I know people out in the real world actually have vacations. Real estate agents don't get them very often. But you could go on vacation and somebody would fill in for your business while you were gone and vice versa. So that's always a good thing. And to actually share clients and share everything makes it easier to do that. So I don't know. I mean, you and I went back and forth with I wanted to partner and you didn't, and then you said you wanted to partner, but I didn't. And I don't know how long we went back and forth doing that before we finally just decided to jump in and do it. So burn the ships, as you said.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we talked about burning the ships till like 6 months later after we've been trying to partner and like threatened to quit multiple times. Not really threatened to quit, but like it was difficult learning how to give up. As an independent business person, you do things exactly the way you want, exactly when you want to
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
learning how to, for lack of a better word, submit to each other or allow the other person's input to determine how you're going to do something was
Yep.
not easy for either one of us.
Right. Well, we were both very set in our ways. And
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
what do you mean?
Yeah, right. Stubborn. Oh, wait, no, that's not what I meant. Um,
Yeah, it was a bumpy first year for sure.
yeah,
Thank goodness, the burn the ships thing, came up because I don't know that we would have made it past that first year or maybe the first, few months. Because it's hard. This is hard. It's like a marriage.
yeah. The burn the ships quote comes from Cortez coming to the New World and the way he made all the people committed to the endeavor of surviving and thriving in the New World was by burning the ships and saying there's no going back. So we use that as a metaphor to say if we're in, we're in, and we're gonna quit bringing up. I might want to be out. So
Although there were times when I thought, I'm going to go find a tree and I'm going to cut down that tree and I'm going to make some wood and I'm going to build a new ship.
yeah, right. Good luck with that.
Exactly. Exactly.
The I think that there one of the things that we quickly developed into our pattern was learning to trust each other. We talked a little bit about that.
Yep.
Um, in one of the illustrations that I heard somebody describing um, SEAL Team Six, that's the crew that actually took out Bin Laden, and they do that kind of high level tactics. Now, I'm not really a military person, so forgive me here, and I'm actually a little closer to being a pacifist. But part of what's so amazing about those guys is that everybody on that crew can do any job that's required at any moment. So there's a lot of if somebody isn't able to complete the duty, anybody else on the team can do it.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things that's true with us. We both were successful agents independently and developed skills in all different areas. And so
Yeah.
learning to trust each other to do any of the aspects of our business made it really easy. Things that were like possible to go on vacations and leave completely and turn the phone off,
Mhm.
metaphorically speaking. I think one of the things that I'm really thankful about being able to partner with you is having been able to take a few trips. And one of them was so all one of the things that trainers are always trying to tell you about real estate, how glamorous our job is, and like all this
Mhm.
technology, and you don't need to be present for this or that, and you could be living on the beach in Mexico completing transactions. Well, I actually went to Mexico for a trip one time. My niece was getting married, and this was just as we were doing accountability, but we hadn't partnered yet. And I was trying to complete the transaction from a hotel room. No, the airport bathroom, because it was the only place I could find power for my phone and where I can get a signal. So I was making these calls from the airport bathroom, and it was just ridiculous. The place to do business. I'm like, why am I trying to do this on my own? I know Sherry said she'd handle this for me if I called her. So I called Sherry, and she took care of it. It had to do with a sewer lateral and inspection, and it was not a very fun thing to do. But she took care of it without me having to worry about another moment, and I can enjoy my niece's wedding and time with my family.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the moments when I thought I my reaction was I can trust Sherry in this moment, which means that I could trust Sherry when it wasn't a crisis as well. So I
Yeah.
was all in at that moment.
That was probably a deciding point for both of us, I think, then when we figured out that we could help each other out and what it felt like to have someone there on the other side when you needed them. So I would say that was the point at which it was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So
Now that being said, that we kind of have the SEAL Team Six mentality where we both can do things. One of
Yep.
the other parts about being a partner is that we get to lean into our strengths a little bit and trust each other's in that particular area.
Yep.
And Sherry's background, coming in from advertising, she has a lens that looks at that a little bit differently than I do, brings a lot of strengths there. She also brings a lot of strengths in just having been in the business twice as long as I have. And having all that breadth of experience, whenever there's a little challenge that comes up, she's it's more than likely she's seen something like it in the past, and I can say, "Hey, Sherry, how did this work out? What should we do here?"
Mhm.
For choices, and particularly for our clients, but also for me as a colleague that's always trying to learn to make myself better. So she's a wealth of information because she's not. You know how sometimes you think you're supposed to know something, so you're afraid to ask a question? That's not Sherry at all. She wants to know the right answer, and so she's always asking a question. And this is unrelated to real estate, but that happened this last week. We were making some truffles, yes, chocolate truffles for clients, and Sherry has experience with it because she's an accomplished baker and a confectionarist or whatever the word is. Totally in her bandwagon to do this. And that's not the expression, but you know what I mean. Um, and, and
Chocolate
she,
and right.
yeah, and she, but she hadn't done it for a couple years, and that the chocolate melts that are used to make the shell Guittard had changed their recipe, and it was not operating the way it previously had. And so she was playing with the recipe and called them to see if they had like what's going on here because your chocolate peels are not working the same way. And then she called Ghirardelli and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing this and we're doing that." And we're like, "Oh no, we wouldn't know how to do the thing you're trying to do with this product." And Sherry's like, "Well, you used to be able to use this product. What do you mean? And what if I tried it this way?" Like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Why don't you try it? And if it works, call us back." So Sherry called two different places, figured out the product that she had now, what and how it was different, changed the recipe herself, figured out how to get it looking amazing, and then called Ghirardelli back and said, "Oh, by the way, this is how your product works. You may want to start telling people this is how to use it to make candies."
I think they were so surprised when I called back because it was the professional arm of their business, not the consumer arm. And they're the ones who figure out how to use their products and develop recipes and develop techniques and things like that. And here I am, the real estate agent making truffles, calling them back and saying, "Here's what your product can do." So that was fun. They couldn't have been nicer people. So I'm a Ghirardelli fan for life. It doesn't hurt that they're a local company and we're supporting them, although Guittard is local as well. But that's how my brain works. You know, when we started working on these truffles a week ago and started to have problems with it, I was obsessed with figuring out how to make it right. And that's the great thing about real estate is no two transactions are the same. You encounter different situations with every single transaction, and sometimes you get to a point where you don't know how to fix the problem, and that's what I love.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't get stressed out about it. I just become obsessed with it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to make this work, and we're gonna get through it, and we're gonna close escrow, and we're gonna learn from it, and we're gonna keep going.
For those of you like sports analogy, particularly football, those of us here obviously are 49er fans. Sherry is the epitome of yards after contact. So can you picture Christian McCaffrey going through the line of scrimmage and you're like, "Oh, he's going to get sacked or not tackled, but tackled for, a 1 or 2 yard gain." And somehow he contorts his body and squeezes through the linemen. And the next thing you know, he's got a 10-yard gain. That distance that he makes after that initial contact is Sherry when it comes to business. It's like, "Oh, there's a little problem here. Oh no, we're we're gonna figure out how to get another 10 yards down the line." And it's just a lot of fun, and I get to go along in that learning process with her, and it makes me a better agent as well.
Thank you, Adam, for the
Um,
nice compliment and for explaining what yards after contact means because I had no clue what that meant.
yeah, yeah. I use a lot of things that Sherry doesn't always immediately recognize,
I'm
particularly
not a sports fan.
obscure quotes from movies and song
Yeah.
lyrics from the 80s. Those are like my go-to. And
Yeah.
she's like, "What?" And I'm like,
I can keep up with song lyrics from the 80s. I was an 80s
"Yeah,
music person. But
yeah,
it's the sports analogies and the your ability to quote, you know, movies and expect me to keep up with how fast your brain works. Like, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about when I have no idea what you're talking about. But it always makes sense, you know. That's
eventually."
the difference in our personalities is that I put my head down and I figure out a problem and I keep pushing. What did you say? Yards after
Yards
contact?
after contact, yeah.
And you can multitask and think of 10 things at once and stay on track and listen to somebody else talking and keep it all in your head. Whereas, you know, I have trouble listening to one person talk at a time. And if there's any distraction, I can't focus. So we each have our
But
strengths.
we get there together and
We
we bring
do.
our clients along for the ride, so it all works out.
So how did you
Um,
end up in real estate? I don't think I know this story actually. Is
um,
your-
so when I was in junior high, we took a vocational test, like what you might want to be good at, and mine came. I think it had questions about being social and maybe about buildings. I'm not sure what my answers were, but it said I should be a real estate agent.
Mhm.
And at 12, 13, I'm like, I don't want to be a real estate agent. They work on Sundays, and I'm going to have Sundays off. Uh,
Uh-huh.
So that was my first hint that I was might go into real estate. I had a couple careers before selling real estate. There was a small family portfolio of rental properties here in the Bay Area, and my undergrad degree was in construction management. So the property management route seemed to make the most sense. And so got my broker's license so that I could manage rental properties, and quickly realized I really didn't want to be receiving calls at 11 o'clock at night that there was a stopped up toilet or a leaky roof. So I decided to go into sales, and
Mhm.
I've been doing that for, I think we're at 12, 13 years now.
Wow.
And it's a whole lot more fun, way more fun than property management, but getting
Uh-huh.
to walk through that purchasing journey with home buyers is a lot of fun, helping them make good decisions about that just because you walk into a house on an open house and you fall in love with the floor plan, that may or may not be a good house to buy. And I love being able to help clients look at the house more from a construction standpoint, longevity, what's it going to cost to maintain it? Are there big repairs that are imminent? Is there some sort of defect that isn't apparent from just walking in the house, and helping clients understand inspection reports and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're really
Sometimes,
good at that, at pointing out the things that they would never, ever think about. I
sometimes
mean,
I'm too good at that. We had
that is
I
true.
I tend to want to point out all the things that might annoy a homeowner after they've bought it, but I'm
Well,
pointing
can I
out,
tell this story?
oh
I'm
yeah,
better
you
at
tell
telling
it.
the story. So we show almost all houses together if we can, because we have such a different way of showing houses. And when we walk in to a home, I'm very focused on the buyers. And I'm looking at the house, of course, but I'm watching the clients and I'm asking them questions. What do you think about this? How big is your bed? Sometimes it gets very personal. Do you plan to have any other kids? And I'm asking questions, but Adam is, look at the crack. I don't know. What do you think that is up there? You need to think about this. You need to think about that. And they both are very valuable ways to look at homes, because one, I'm focused on the client, and then Adam is focused on the client and showing them what might be wrong with the house. And we worked with a couple a few years ago, and the wife took me aside and said, "Does Adam like any houses?" It was pretty funny. I said, that doesn't mean he doesn't like the house. It just means he's telling you about the house.
Exactly. I like lots of houses that have, that aren't well, let me say, no house is perfect. You just want to know how it's not perfect, and is that something that you can live with?
Yeah. And is the perfection or the problem that you're pointing out going to be an issue down the road, or is it something you just need to be aware of and then it's not going to be a problem?
The
So I think we talk
classic,
people out of buying houses all the time that we think are not good houses or not the right houses for them, we're not afraid to do that.
Yeah. The classic example is a sloped floor, and that just because a floor is sloped doesn't mean that the house is falling down at all, but it might annoy you. In fact, when I did a major remodel at our house, almost 20 years ago now, the one thing that we didn't fix was a sloped floor in my older child's bedroom, to which she repeatedly complained about it. Well, now she's moved out and I'm using that room as my office. And my office chair, when I get up, rolls across the room away from my desk. And my child will remind me that she had to live with that for her whole time growing up. So I should not complain about it.
Oh,
She's not,
payback.
she's not wrong.
My
So,
floors are sloped in my house, and when I first moved in, it kind of drove me crazy. But I also have the Sherry's rule that you can get used to anything, and I don't even notice it anymore.
yeah.
So somebody else who moved in after I lived in this house might notice it because it's pretty obvious, but it doesn't bother me anymore. So, and the house isn't falling down, so that's a good thing.
Well, I think that that's enough of our origin story, a little bit about how we work together. In future podcasts, we'll share a little bit, we'll continue to share about our stories so you get to know us. Well, I think that's about it for today. We thank everybody for joining us. We hope that this was mildly entertaining to learn about our story and hopefully informational about the way the market is right now. Hope you tune in next week to hear the next recorded podcast for The Real Story with Adam and Sherry.
We'll have some great stories then.
All right, bye now.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.